side of us. You could kind of see the thing moving through the woods.
All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, in the whole night, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing, is all I can call it.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, February 14, 2021. Happy Valentine's Day, folks. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, along with that character right beneath me, Mr. Chris Bennett.
Hey, how you doing, Steve, man? Spreading the love today on Valentine's Day.
That's right. And of course, our good friend here is also with us. Pass it down, Mr. Dave Wickham. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Waiting for the snow.
And you know what? We all have the same haircut.
Well, that's handy. We are saving the world by reducing shampoo use.
We are
The joke is we usually only buy like one bottle of shampoo each year. So
we're also saving the carbon footprint from the electricity used for the trimmers.
Yes,
and
that's
at,
right.
at the barber shop. So
hey man, that's saving the world.
So let's do our roll call for tonight. The folks have checked in that said hello.
Oh yeah,
we love to do that with our audience.
Oh, there's a lot of people in here already. Hi guys.
Yeah, it's booming. So we got Corey. Hello, Corey. Good evening.
Hey, Corey.
Mr. Cassidy. Good to see you.
Matt, welcome.
Of course, what evening of Squatch-D TV would not be complete without B. Hello, B.
Hi, B. Good to see you.
Mr. Swan, sir. How are you?
John.
And we got Frank. Frank's on.
Hey, Frank. Welcome.
Low Rider. Good to see Low Rider.
Low Rider.
Mr. Mike.
Yeah.
Tactical
Mike.
Bigfoot Research. Hello, Michael. Judy. Good to see you.
Hi, Judy. Welcome.
And Mick is actually on time tonight.
Welcome, Mick.
Of course, our good friend, Mr. Charlie Wonton himself.
Charlie, welcome.
And we got Diane Trick. Hello, Diane. Good to see you.
Hi, Diane.
Of course, there's the lovely Sherry Lynn. Hello.
Sherry.
That's my boss. Ken Collins. Good to see you, Ken. And so far, who else we got here? We got John. Good to see you, John.
Hey, John. Welcome.
And does he have a different fish on his picture every week?
I don't know.
And we got Mark. Good to see you, Mark. Howdy, sir.
Hey, Mark.
Robin, our good friend from up north.
Welcome, Robin.
And hope everything's at least warmer than it is here, even though you guys are Canada or a little bit north. So, and of course, Jimmy. Hello, Jimmy.
Welcome, Jimmy.
So, boy, we what a show we got tonight. So, where do we start? Where do we start?
I'm excited though because we're supposed to have some like New York weather here. I mean, it's supposed to be like a foot of snow in the next few days. So I'm excited to see it.
You know, John, that's not a bad idea. Like every week, change the fish. Next week, hold up like a swordfish or something, or just, Photoshop one in. Just have maybe 1 week of Godzilla.
I think that was a trout he was holding up. I think I couldn't make it out real good. The old eyes aren't what they used to be, but
that's what I do every year at Halloween. John says I'll work on that. I do every Halloween. I claim to be illiterate, so it's trick or trout. So when kids show up at the door, I give them a fish. No, they don't like that.
No. Well, you get a lot of extra toilet paper though. Just go out and gather it off the trees.
Right. So anywho, it's been a very interesting week, and hang on a second.
Oh yeah, John said it's a brown trout. Yeah,
the brown trout. So anyway, we didn't have a show last week because of Super Bowl. What a disappointment that was. It was a good. All right, game was okay. It wasn't one of those nail biters. Probably the best thing during the night was the streaker. That was kind of funny. And if you ever heard the audio, if you heard the radio broadcast, it was hysterical because the TV broadcast kind of didn't say nothing about it and they went to commercial. But the guys on the radio called it like a play. I don't know if anybody heard that, but they're like, oh, there's a streaker on the field. He's at the 30-yard line. Oh, he just juked the security guard. Now he's at the 20, the 10. Oh, he's down at the goal line as the security converges on him. And,
oh, man.
And it was totally hysterical.
People are the funniest creatures,
But since that, I cut a couple of videos. One was the Squatch Stories episode 3. So for folks who haven't heard that, give that a listen.
Over on YouTube,
or a watch. Folks that are on our audio replay, when you have a chance, go visit it over at the YouTube channel. But since a couple of things happened, last Thursday, I put a debunking out of this alleged Bigfoot tooth that came out of Salt Fork, allegedly came out of Salt Fork State Park. And that's how kind of David and I started talking with one another. I said, Dave, you'd be awesome to come on the show. And, we, whatever, it really picked up and it went kind of, for us, it went kind of viral. It was, creeping up on 1,000 hits already. And it's just a few days old. So, and we also, we have a lot bigger subscriber. We've picked up, I think 30 or so new subscribers just great. Over the last few days. And we want to welcome everybody there. And thanks for being here.
And people's got to understand when we get hits on a video or something, it's not because we've promoted it and spent $10,000 trying to make clickbait. No. We just put a video out and people watch it. Great. They don't watch it. Well, no. That's why we need your help.
Yep.
Like, share, subscribe. That way, it gets us more in the search better.
And we've always said this for folks who are new to the channel, we have the smartest audience. And not every show is for everybody. There'll be shows, that we may be talking not even necessarily about Bigfoot itself, but the Bigfoot community. Or we may be talking about a breakdown of a hoax. Or tonight we're going to do a whole mishmash of things. We're not going to so much talk about necessarily the Bigfoot community. And that's right. Ken, the whole tooth and nothing but the tooth.
Oh man.
And Nick said he wondered what a Sasquatch would think about a human streaking through the forest. He'd probably get a good laugh. And this is exactly what the Sasquatch would do. Like I said, a little adult humor here and there.
Man.
We like playing the, every once in a while we like to throw an Italian suppository at people. What is an Italian suppository, you ask? It's an innuendo. Hey, it's innuendo. Anyway, all right, enough of the bad joke. And hello to Sarah. She just popped in.
Hey, Sarah.
And of course, this character, Mr. Ed Weiland popped in.
Ed.
Whoop, whoop, wahoo! Taters is live. So anyway, I guess we're gonna put the cart before the horse. But you've been doing research for how many years now, David?
About 9 years right now.
Right, and about a year or so, a little over a year, this guy. We Do It Outdoors came on the scene, hitting a place that was pretty much your primary area. You like to play it, and that's Salt Fork State Park. And describe what's been going on the last year.
Well, I think people, we have our different groups, and you're always looking at YouTube, what's going on in the Bigfoot world. And this video came on, and I think it was like April, and it was, Sasquatch at Salt Fork. And sure enough, I got about 3 or 4 people, who not even in Bigfoot send me friends, who kind of knew I'm into it, sent me the video. So I finally stopped and looked at it, and it was, talking about, go in there and find an area. And I think they found bones, and all of a sudden they found the elusive Bigfoot walking through Salt Fork, and he played peekaboo behind a tree. And I watched the video because I'm always hopeful. I want it in my lifetime to be able to say, yes, we prove it, or we have the proof to say that it actually exists. And Salt Fork, again, it's an area that I have researched many, many times. And what happened was
Hey, David, I think something's going on with your audio.
There, you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, we got you now. Yep.
All right. We were going, and things were going on with the video, and I watched it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. It's a guy in a suit. And I say that in the references that I'm a physical therapist, been doing it for about 28 years. So I have a really good grasp on human gait and components of cadence and steppage and weight shifting, and I'm watching a guy walk. And so the gentleman who posted the video, he put out the video. He's doing a whole bunch of groups, and then he's like, oh, check this out. And he got into a bunch of groups that created some dialogue, and a lot of people, it was 50-50. I hate to say it, but it was 50-50. People say, oh, it's a hoax. And other people are like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So, people like you and I, anytime I had a chance, I got on there and said, guys, this is, a human walking. It's not fast. It actually, during one of the steps, it stepped over a log and almost lost its balance and did a reflex to keep itself from falling. And I've had an opportunity once to be in the woods in an area that we had some activity, and me and another gentleman, Bo, was following something that was very large and bipedal, and I can pretty much say it was bipedal. I've hunted. It's not a deer prance or hopping and whatnot, and it sounded like a linebacker going through the woods, and it was faster than what we could do with our night vision. We couldn't keep up with it. It was just boom, 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 and it was a freight train going through the woods. And this video, this subject was not a freight train. it was like someone walking home from an evening at a bar, and
he was more like a train wreck.
Yeah, a train wreck. And I feel bad, but a lot of the people, started arguing with him, and the gentleman decided to argue back. And it depending on how rude they got, he kind of reflected back. And I was like, well, all right. So I kind of kept it as a in my back thing. But the bad part was it went viral. The newspaper got it. It must have been a really slow news day that day, but the TV got it. I think it went all the way to Australia, as in a storyline. Bigfoot found or videotaped, and he got lots of hits, lots of fame off of that. And I even tweeted him a little bit later. Me and some friends, Dave Webster and Jack Warren and Brian DeWork from Indiana, we had went Salt Fork for a weekend to do some research on our areas that we've hit before, and we was camping there, and this is right before the big COVID stuff really started hitting. And we had a group of 4 guys from college that had watched the video they thought was real and decided to come that weekend to go squatching. And so we had a chance to sit down and we showed them some of our equipment. And we actually casted a couple footprints out in the woods that we found that were kind of interesting. And came back to the fire and showed them. And it was really nice for us to have that opportunity. And so I kind of said, hey, here's a picture. I don't really believe in your video, but you did, these guys got out of their city and came down here and camped. So it was a windfall for the park. I mean, the park got some more hits. I know I talked to the naturalist, John Hickenbottom, and they got some phone calls from the higher ups. Hey, this is hitting the news. What are we going to do about it to capitalize on this? At least 2 minutes of fame. So it did help the park, for the inquiries and maybe even actually some extra campers. But after that, I was just like, forget it. But yeah, he came out with a bunch of other videos, and I just shook my head.
Well, as we see it, a hoaxer a lot of times will jump the shark. And I think with this Bigfoot tooth, I mean, it was pretty condemning with this alleged DNA report. Because all of a sudden I started getting on my wires, hey, you know anything about this DNA report about this tooth? And, I had a look for, this guy. Okay. And, I've seen and of course, there are times when I see a serial hoaxer come out, when they first come out, they put something out there. Okay, it's kind of weak. I'm not going to get it yet. And, he had the trail cam video, which was a blatant, he had that still photo of it in there, which was blatantly a costume. We've seen that costume before. And then a little while later, he has this video with tracks, this trackway. And the stride on it is nothing major. It looks like it was just somebody just put a pair of stompers on and walked around. And they were in snow to begin with. And my feelings on snow tracks a lot of times. For those who don't know, I don't put much stock in snow tracks. Yep. Especially if they're sitting around. Just so you know, Tack asked, because Tack is over on the western part of New York State. He was just wondering what part of Ohio, and you're in the southern Ohio area.
Southeast Ohio, Coshocton County.
Yep. So that would be probably about 4 hours to Lake Western New York.
Yeah, I would say we've been in Jersey a couple of times, so about 4 to 6 hours.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, it's probably 6 to Jersey. And I have this meme on my phone that I throw out there every once in a while as of Washington crossing the Delaware, and the quote under it says, "One does not simply enter Jersey."
New Jersey gets a bad rap. So, I like Jersey. Good looking state.
You haven't been to North Jersey. I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah. But it is. It's a pretty state. I mean, people from New York City, they're like, you live in Jersey. Oh man, Jersey's fine. It looks nice.
Quickwitty asked if we've seen the Ontario photos floating around. Nope, haven't. I think I know what he's talking about. I may have seen it, but I really haven't had time to delve into them.
Is that the one where it's way off? They think it's on the side of a mountain, but it doesn't seem like to ever move. And the cameraman said, "Oh, look, it's moving." Well, I didn't see it moving.
I don't know.
It's moving. Where?
I don't know. So, but you see, Ken, here's the point. And talking about, Prince, the video spoke a lot, and I let that speak for itself because obviously as a costume, he's going to lose people there. When it goes into this trackway, I'm not going to jump in and say, hey, the stride looks a little long or it looks a little short for a Sasquatch, because what's going to happen? Well, how do you know the Sasquatch maybe was taking a half foot or, so, okay. I have my gut feeling on it, but ... we have to, we have to wait for the moment. And actually it did happen. And I'm going to pull up the video that I put out, and we'll take a look. And this is really cool now because we have this new way of moving along into the video.
New features.
Yeah, new feature. So this itself is the tooth here. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to back it up a little bit, and I'll let this play a little bit so people get a better understanding if they haven't seen the video. Take a look at it real quick and see if there's any validity to it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is look at a few screenshots from their video. You'll find it, and We Do It Outdoors. The first picture we have is the side view of the tooth. Looks pretty enormous. Second picture we have is the overhead view of the tooth. Now, if anybody wants to jump in, just say so, because I can stop this and we can talk over it. That's the beautiful thing about this. We can actually talk as it plays as well. Really cool new feature. So here's the interesting thing. Well, I'll talk about it. Doesn't necessarily look rectangular, which our primate teeth are kind of squarish. Next, we have what appears to be some sort of DNA collection. As you can see, the collection tube is sitting on the table underneath. He's wearing gloves and he's inserting a stick into the tooth. And finally, we have a copy of the DNA letter they supposedly received. So we began to look at some other teeth and see if there's a comparison maybe. It was suggested that perhaps it was a bovine tooth, which it doesn't really appear to be a bovine tooth, but we looked at some other teeth, such as a bear tooth and teeth amongst primates and humans and the apes, and finally even a Gigantopithecus tooth. And it just appears that, it could be any tooth. It could even be fabricated. Really, I don't see anything like that. Now, people would say, hey, wait a minute, that could exactly be why it could be a Bigfoot tooth, because it looks like none of these. So let's put that to the back burner. Let's go to the meat of the matter, which is going to really... Now that there is, I found that actually this was auctioned off. It's actually a Gigantopithecus molar. Mm-hmm. And it's not as large as one would think.
Right.
But as you can tell, and one of the things I noticed in all of your primate teeth, they're very rectangular, almost squarish in some cases, right? Whereas this tooth that he was using was, very roundish. So to me, it doesn't, could it be a real tooth? Maybe. The side view kind of leads me to believe it may be a tooth. Because, if anybody has seen a decaying tooth or had a tooth pulled, this discoloration in it and stuff, and these little flecks, I don't think this is a manufactured tooth. I really don't. I think this may be pulled from, apparently he does some taxidermy from what I understand. I don't know if that's true, David.
He has a custom bait shop. He makes custom lures for fishing.
Okay.
So, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So he's used to casting with like resins and stuff. Wow.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
Yep. So,
I wanted to say a cow tooth when I first seen it, but the root is pretty long.
Yeah.
And but when they're showing that picture, if we can, where they're checking or they're gathering DNA from the tooth.
Okay. Well, hang
man,
on.
that's completely wrong.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. So
okay.
Let's go to the meat of the matter, which is going to really either prove this to be something authentic or prove this to be something hoaxed. The first couple of captures with this tooth, they're being handled with a gloveless hand, and we all know with DNA contamination how this thing is reporting it's 99 to 97% human. Well, it's being handled by a human hand. How much of that is contamination if this indeed is really a genuine DNA report? Okay, so now we have this slide here that is a screen cap of the DNA collection using this small dowel, best I can describe it, and this tube. Problem is, if you have the tube, why aren't you using a buccal swab? This will not collect DNA correctly. Who knows if it's even sterile? So to me, this is just for show. Now, see, here is something very interesting. He's actually using a dowel, and that is using crafting stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and that is not meant for DNA collection.
Right.
The buccal swabs, are meant to, they're made specially that they actually attract those particles of DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is completely irregular. Yes, Chris.
A point here, though. If you're collecting DNA from a tooth, you do not rub on the outside of the tooth with a swab or something other and say, oh, yeah, you're going to get whatever DNA was laying on the tooth from the environment. What you do is you drill a hole into the pulp of the tooth, and then you collect DNA from inside that area. That is how you get DNA from a tooth.
Right. And from the looks of it, the tooth already has been rotted out. So the pulp would have been gone. Yeah. And of course, it shows him allegedly cleaning tooth decay out. It kind of looks like just dirt.
Yeah.
And supposedly that was sent in, but that makes no sense at all the way it's being collected.
With the current COVID testing, you would have thought that they would have picked better props.
Yeah. Yeah. Mask or something. There is a tube, but who knows that can, he might have, I always say this, he maybe had a home DNA kit and he just used that tube as a prop, behind, and didn't want to use the actual buccal swab that comes with the tooth because you need that for your DNA, or perhaps he already used it. To me, it's baffling that, and very clear that this is not meant. Yeah. Terry says the fake tooth needs a filling.
That's a heck of a cavity in there. I bet that was aching.
Except maybe the wearing of the gloves. So let's take a look at the DNA report, probably the most revealing of this entire video. Now, let me just say this: if anybody believes this, look at this DNA, they need to be, shook into reality. First of all, the DNA letter has the laboratory name allegedly scratched out, the name of the doctor scratched out, citing an NDA. Hey, listen, folks, when you send your DNA to a lab, they don't require you to sign an NDA. Another thing is, what lab sends a report out, or what agency ever sends a report out, whether it be a lab report, a DNA report, whatever, without the company's logo on it? Next, let's look at the improper capitalization in this document. This occurs 7 times throughout the entire piece of paper. The word conducted is capitalized, and it's the last word in the sentence. Next, we have the word dental pulp, where dental is capitalized, but pulp is not. In the very next sentence, dental and pulp are capitalized. And it seems to be very common. Anytime this guy mentions a term, he's capitalizing it. Tooth decay, tooth being capitalized. Dentine, which, by the way, dentine is actually the English pronunciation and spelling of the word dentin. That's the way we say that in the United States. So that in itself is kind of bizarre. The other interesting thing in this report is there are several instances where the DNA report says the DNA test reveals that the sample has been determined to be dentine, or the sample has been determined to be a tooth enamel, or the sample has been determined to be tooth decay. DNA tests don't determine any of that. They determine genetic sequencing, not what the actual substance is. DNA can come from hair, blood, brain matter, bone, whatever, teeth, but the DNA test doesn't reveal what the type of matter is that's tested. Now, if you notice in the last example, there are certain terms that are used in this document that are copied directly from the web. Yeah, it's amazing. I took some actual snippets from there that sounded kind of, and of course, boom, I found, you put them in Google search and hey, there's the website it came from.
Boom.
Yeah.
And that happened a couple of times. And even like the previous example, this was one. I mean, this sample came directly from, yourgenome.org. The other one came from, actually, it wasn't medlineplus.com. It was medlineplus.gov. actually came from a government, and you can see he just omitted the bacteria. They just omitted that, and tooth decay is damaged. I thought that was kind of a weird tooth decay. I thought this was kind of a weird saying, as tooth decay can lead to cavities, dental caries, which is holes in your teeth. And I'm like, that's kind of weird, way of saying it, but there it was. So we found the source of that. And directly from the web, and it's from medicineplus.com, verbatim, word by word, with the exception it comes from yourgenome.org. Directly from it's the first sentence, word for word. And the last big flag of this DNA report, it says the sample is determined the DNA contains between 97% to 99% human DNA. The specific DNA match is unknown to any records in the international database. International database? There is no international database. A legitimate geneticist would use the term in known databases, or likely a term would be like GenBank. They wouldn't say in the international database, like there is one. There isn't one. There are many, and there are several very accepted ones, GenBank being the largest. So anyway, that really proves to me that whoever wrote this was not a geneticist. To me, it looks like somebody who perhaps just graduated middle school wrote this and just used Wikipedia to help them along. Finally, we have to remember that We Do It Outdoors also has a feature channel called My Stupid Humor. Not only that, but they actually came out with this crappy picture of a... And this is the photo, there's still photo on there of their... we've seen this costume many times before. Now, so Bigfoot. I think that kind of wraps it. So I just want... But here's the interesting thing. Yeah, and we've talked about this in the show before, and let me throw this out there too. But I believe Bigfoot and Beyond podcast with Cliff Barrickman and Bobo Fay, I'll be on it, I believe, tomorrow night. So we recorded that a few days ago, so I just wanted to throw that out there. We talked a little bit about this too, about the guy is such a narcissist. And I wanted to pull this up. Is he did respond to it? He actually put a response up, and he said the logo is on it and blurred out. No, this is a dumbed down version of the full 8-page report. Really? Wait a minute. You got a dumbed down report? Well, this is pretty dumb. That's one of my thoughts. I requested the NDA for both parties involved. Huh? Why would you request a lab, and not hide the lab? And you know what the answer was to that? Because you people will harass and harangue them and yada, yada, yada. And that's why I won't release the 8-page report, because people like you, the haters, this is the type
skeptics.
No, not even that. What it is, it's a number of things, and I'm going to I'm going to pull this up on I don't know if it's going to pull up over here. I'm going to pull this up here in a second, because I think it's pretty interesting, the response that I wrote here. But anyway, what I did is I baited him, because when you deal with a personality like that, he obviously was not going to answer any questions about it. He was picking on things like, the logo. There was a logo on it. It's blurred out. Well, it doesn't look like blurring to me. It looks like somebody took a piece of paper and crayoned over it or something.
Yeah.
The other kick on it too is he talks about the NDA and stuff, and he's not hitting the real issues with it. Like he did mention, if you look, I was getting the stuff out of I was getting the stuff out of the middle of the tooth, and yeah, no kidding, but you're not answering to the the actual points of the thing, and eventually it turned into, you're just jealous, and for folks who don't know, if you try to debunk something, and I'm sure David, he probably told you were jealous as well.
Well, no, he sent me a private message saying, am I trying to get him and his family and his kids beat up? And I got mentioned with Doug Waller from Sauceby and Matt Moneymaker from the BFRO. He's like, you guys are I'm calling the police on you and asking and sending the FBI after you. And it was kind of I'm like, what? You know, I get to comment, and now you're going to threaten me. And then he took a picture of my work Facebook page, and just to kind of he knows where I work, and I'm like, fine.
Okay, so he pulls this big jealousy card on me because he said, because he was on Paranormal, caught on tape. So this was my official response. Your assumption is almost as big as a hoax as your DNA report, like myself giving me likes. He was very, very hung up on, the likes you get, how many, he was hung up on all this number stuff. In fact, I'm going to explain his response to this letter because I don't have it. I may have it here, but I think it's on my phone, so I won't able to put it up there. But he says, it's amazing how none of these accounts have any content. You see, I'm talking about the sock accounts that were commenting. After he commented, I fired back, and then quick witty. Lots of people jealous of how to hunt. Yeah, right. So I'm not. See, I love that too, because if I don't like how to hunt, oh, you're just jealous. Okay, I'm jealous, and I'll explain why. And this will break it down. You have stated what your sock accounts just said too. I'm jealous. By the way, it's something every hoaxer says too. And mind you, that quick witty, if you're just spoofing what how to hunt says, just understand every hoaxer says this. You're just jealous, And it says you and other hoaxers are the jealous ones. That's why you hoax. The reason the hoaxers are really the jealous one. I think How to Hunt's the same way. He had a sighting, but all of a sudden, his couple of years being around, Bigfoot, he knows everything, writing a book, all this other stuff. But this is not about him. This is about we do it outdoors. They do it to skip the line, to get yourself on TV or YouTube hits and likes and subs, which is why you and your sock accounts seem so focused on it. And you do it they do it without putting in the work. We have all here put in the work. But let me go on. Perhaps there's a psychological need for them to feel important. Getting back to the jealous thing, see, and then I talk about myself. See, I've been on 5 different networks, over 7 different countries in the last 13 years. I've been on a national news show, all 3 local network news shows, quoted in print in over 200 newspapers worldwide. And guess what? They all came to me. I didn't seek them out. I put in the work, honestly. I'm also the author of 3 books, a lecturer. I have had legit sightings. So spare me the bullshit that I am jealous. Unlike the way you get on Paranormal Caught on Tape by submitting your video, you had your 3 minutes of fame by being on the same program as a couple of other hoaxers, one being the Squatch Master, which also tells me they will put anything on. Congratulations. I'm so jealous. LOL. Guess what? If I was a jealous person, I'd be going after somebody a lot higher on the food chain than you. I go, you also hurt legitimate listeners by your silly games. Sleep on that. As for what I stated was fact, miscapitalizations, fact. DNA reports only report on genome sequences. Fact, there is no one international database as the report suggests. Fact, things in the report were copied directly from the web. Fact, the word dentine is used. That's a UK term. The US term is dentin. From those facts, I have made a decision, just like a juror. Your DNA report is fake. So, and guess what? If all you can do is name call, guess what? You have nothing to argue on. Give it up or move on. Yeah. So that was my response. See, when I'm like, I'm sick of this. I'm just going to call it. You know what? What have I got to be jealous on? I'm still getting on TV. I'm still in documentaries. I didn't even comment the number of documentaries I've done. I've been in. I just did a documentary. I'm going to be on the Small Town Monsters documentary on the trail of Bigfoot, the journey. I got something else brewing. So, I mean, it's like, not really jealous.
Well, and the other part, it for the like independent researchers like me and some of my friends and other small groups, when we go to places like Salt Fork and we're actually trying to do legitimate research in the area, it creates a little snicker because there's some people with common sense who doesn't necessarily follow or care about Bigfoot, but they see that as being, they think the best that YouTube has, and they just shake their head. You know, it doesn't help us out at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Chris, you okay?
Yeah, I am getting my dog's bribes.
See, and Mick says he's jealous of anyone who can survive eating his ex's meatloaf.
Yeah.
I was also trying to do some, see if I could find a picture of that tooth that would match up with something. And, you know, I can't really find anything.
Check a camel tooth. Check a camel tooth.
Yeah. With looks like it's been worked on, so it could have been.
But you know what? Here's the thing: we can sit there and beat our head. And I mean, let's face it. If we think a picture is BS or we're unsure of it, where do we go? We go to the facts around it.
Yes.
That's where we should always lead. Doesn't matter because you know what? Pictures can always be argued. We're not dentists. We're not experts in that field, but we are very well versed in is DNA reports or looking at things that have, these anomalies to it, like the misspellings or the miscapitalizations in the document. That screams loud. And I didn't mean to take so much time on this, but it's very important that I say this, that hoaxers are the ones that shortcut. If you think about it, if people think that, you know, how are these guys being around for 1 or 2 years, all of a sudden, boom, they're getting fame and they know so much because they're full of it. They are full of it. They have not put the work in. People like David, who's been, doing this for years, very quietly under the radar. People like Chris. I mean, if he would, if we didn't do the show, nobody would know us. They would be long forgotten. You're only good as your last, piece of evidence or your, last documentary or whatever. I did check out a hippo tooth, Ken.
Well, since this guy was like in the fishing bait, business or hobby, whatever, casting and stuff is not out of the question. So it could be fabricated, or it could be a real tooth that's been worked on and kind of changed a little bit.
Someone mentioned on one of it could be like a bone that's carved. So he could have gotten like a
very true.
Yes.
And like I say, we can, knock ourselves on the head all day long trying to figure out, what that is. But you look at the DNA report. So his response, he did come out with a response to this.
Right.
And it was something along the lines, well, you know what? I don't, Bigfoot is just my hobby. And oh, by the way, they came to me. No, they didn't. Paranormal Caught on Tape did not come to you. You have to submit it. They don't ever track down anything. They have enough coming in their email box all the time. And if they did come to you, just offer up the proof. But you're not about offering any proof. What I see is that even on his lawn service, he also made this big comment. I have my own business. I make over $100,000 a year, and dude. You're just showing how narcissistic or, what you think is trying to hurt my feelings. That actually would hurt his feelings. That's why he's only, self-reflecting, to him, oh my God, the guy makes more money than I do. Oh, that's him. And that's something a hoaxer will do because guess what? We've seen Rick Dyer do that. We've seen the guy from Frisco, Mr. Snapple himself do that. Right, he just falls in line with the rest of the hoaxers, and that's it. It's his own world, and from the looks of it, your nickname is Taters.
Yeah,
his nickname is Naders, and it looks like Naders could probably use maybe some Nutrisystem or maybe the Slim Fast diet, or at least get on a treadmill once every 5 minutes. Because if you're mowing lawns like you say you're mowing lawns, oh, that's right, you use sitting mowers, and it tells. You can tell. He doesn't use push mowers. So anyway, I'm going to get off this, and we'll get back to our topic.
Zero turn.
Back to our topic. But
I have a push mower too. It hadn't been started in about 8 years, so I guess it probably won't run now. But I don't know. I don't care.
and it's unfortunate that a person like that, actually,
well, that DNA report was very troubling. Report.
But Steve, I really appreciate you putting all that together, because I think every time I saw something, I was posting, interactions and what this guy was doing, and trying to get, the newbies were looking at in the groups were, oh my gosh, have you guys seen this latest video? And we're just like, a whole bunch of us just shaking our head, and it's like, fist palm, palm the head, and it's like, oh no, not another one. So I really appreciate you taking the time putting that together.
And it all follows very true, and like I said, Guy Edwards came out with the 4 characteristics of the Bigfoot hoax. And we have a question from Tom Steenberg, which we'll get to in a second. But Guy would always say that, delay of evidence, and of course they put out their evidence, but they attack the critics, attack the debunkers, and then claim you're the victim, and that's what he did with your case. Oh, and that's what he tried to do with me. But I turned it. Unfortunately, he didn't know who he was dealing with. That may work for John Q. Public. That may work. Say, hey, oh, David, you're just jealous. Well, what are you going to say? No, I'm not. I don't really care to do that.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. Right. But I turn around. I actually have a lot of things that he psychologically is jealous of. And that's why I turned on. I said, well, let me just tell you who you're dealing with. I'm jealous. Well, I've done this, and this. I'm not jealous. Trust me. And with that, he lost it. And then, he became a little profane after he made the comment about making. And then I said, you know what? You can no longer comment on this channel. Boom. And wiped out all his other posts. And I told him, if you're not going to answer the questions, either answer the questions or address the issues, or give it up. So that's what happened. And
if you're going to have a piece of evidence that's going to be something good, like a tooth, and you have a DNA test and report comes back on it, you want all that information out. Why would you want to be secretive? There you go, baby. Why would you want to be secretive about anything like that? This is what the DNA analysis says. This is where they did the analysis. If you got a problem with it, contact them.
And our good friend Tom Steenberg, sir, wants to know, has David done any work with Don Keating over the years?
Well, that's interesting, because there's like the beginning and then where we're at currently. When I grew up, I was just down the road from Newcomerstown, where Don was doing a lot of his research in the Sasquatch Triangle. And I was growing up, and I'm 50 years old, so I was into In Search Of, and the Bionic Man and Bigfoot and mysterious monsters, and reading all kinds of books. And in a newspaper, the Daily Jeffersonian, they'd have, hey, Don Keating's having a Bigfoot meeting. And so I'd be like, Dad, I want to go. And Dad's like, no, we're not going to Newcomerstown for a Bigfoot meeting. So now I get to have a chance through my friend Amy Boo to kind of have a dinner with in Coshocton nearby. I live about 20 minutes away from Newcomerstown. And we just kind of chatted about some stuff and got to know him. And I felt kind of weird, because I grew up with him being, the godfather of Ohio Bigfooting. And I didn't know how to, approach talking to him. And he basically just said, I I'm kind of out Bigfoot. I kind of had been burnt by friends and researchers, and I'm just not into it. But if you just treat me like a normal person and just interact, he says maybe we'll talk about Bigfoot every once in a while. And so I had an opportunity. I tried to look and see what he liked doing, and Don Keating is a mad bowler. He loves to bowl. So I spent a couple 4 or 5 weekends going Sunday, meeting him at a bowling alley, and we bowled. And you got to a point where you're snickering or trying to, throw the person off. And finally, after a while, he was able to start sharing some Bigfoot information. So I haven't been out in the field with him, but I've been very blessed in the last probably 2-3 months to be able to call him up and, hey, I'm just looking at the knowledge that he has in his head and the stories that he can relate with his investigations just roll off his tongue. It's amazing.
Yeah, and now I have one very important question. Did Don break 200 while he was bowling? No, that's confidential. We don't want to know.
He improved his score. He's bowling close to 600 right now. I mean, he'll have 190, 200 pin games. And I was bowling as good as I could do. I was doing 150, and I was pretty happy with that. And he was at 180, and he was literally upset that he would miss, a spare or something like that, or pickups. And
wow.
So he's a competitor. He's still, even to this day, he's a competitor.
And that is a hobby that is dying too. People don't bowl near as much as they used to, and it's fun. If you've never tried it, anybody out there, try it. It is fun. It's such a good stress relief.
If there's one thing
you grab that ball and
if there's one thing I've learned, my bowling score looks more like a golf score, and my golf score looks more like a bowling score.
But I couldn't beat him if he spotted me 30 pins. I mean, I was even trying to yell or whistle or something, cheat a little bit, and he still was beating me. So,
all right, my next question is, how much money did you lose on the game?
We didn't bet, but there was some pride in it. I was challenged, to be honest, and I couldn't keep him.
Yeah, Keating gave up Bigfoot to be a bowling shark. I've never done this before. Oh, we got to have some fun. But
that led us to that point where I was thinking about having a conference, and I approached him on the idea of maybe wanting to speak. I know that he had been out of it for a while, and what's really good is some of his books that I've read had some tidbits of truth to the areas that I was researching, and I really kept tabs of that, and I just approached him, and I kind of took a week or so, but finally I think he was interested in the idea.
Nice, very nice. And I see that the conference you have Don, you have Shane Corson. I do not know the other two folks. Yeah. But Shane Corson is phenomenal. We had him on a few weeks ago. Right. That was one hell of a show, talking about the stuff at Olympic. Right. But I want to hear about some of the stuff, like some of the reports maybe you've taken, or some of the experiences you've had, and what's your approach to doing research?
Well, I think when you grow up, I had this idea of what it was going out into the woods and look for Bigfoot, and never really pay attention. Finding Bigfoot with Matt and Cliff, Bobo, and Renee, I mean, that was really what got me started as an adult back in. I had my kids almost grown out of the house and watching the episodes. And then a buddy of mine, Jason, we worked together, and we found out that you could go on a BFRO expedition. So we went down to West Virginia, and Dr. Jones, Russ, was putting it on with Darren. And we had a blast. It was phenomenal. It was one of the funnest things I'd done, even to a point where the next year we went back. And I think after that, I was kind of hooked. Started going to library talks and the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, and started meeting some people. And one of the people that kind of put me under his wing was Mark Mazel from the Ohio BFRO. And I remember one time getting a text from him saying, "Hey, are you interested in going this weekend to Salt Fork with a group of us to go look for Bigfoot?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm there." So we had a phenomenal time and just kind of edged into it after, going to a bunch of expeditions. Finally, I got to be asked to be part of the BFRO, and I thought that was a really a fun honor with the Finding Bigfoot shows going. I got to meet the cast at one of the town halls, and just started working on reading books, getting up to date on information, reading Don Keating's books, Robert Morgan's book I really love, and being a physical therapist, Dr. Meldrum's book, I actually speak that language. So to read get the foundation, and then start looking at my area. And I live in Coshocton. One of the my address is actually Conesville, which is one of the points of the Sasquatch Triangle. Don corrected as Salt Fork, Newcomerstown, and Conesville. That's where he did a lot of his research. And I wanted to know that area. And so going out in the woods, and I think 1 year or 2 years ago, I wanted to spend 100 hours in the woods, and I kept track of that and actually got out and found areas that I felt had the potential for Squatch. After a while, you get to meet friends, start networking, learning new challenges. Because I'm a physical therapist, I was just kind of gravitated towards casting and learning how to cast. I mean, I remember getting a box of hydrocal and going out and mixing it and just casting deer prints and dog prints and even birds and ducks, and getting to a point where I would go out in the rain and cast in the rain just so I could do it. And so I felt pretty comfortable with my skills in that. The reports, they come and go depending on what your group is or what your situation is. After a while, I did leave the BFRO. I found that I wanted to do more of my local area, and so I, hooked up with some other groups. I'm currently at the Coshocton County Bigfoot group with Jay Fouch and a bunch of other good guys. We go out in the Woodbury, which is 22,000 acres of public land, hunting, fishing land that's reclaimed coal land that the ODNR runs, and it's absolutely amazing out there. And then I have Salt Fork as a backup just down the road.
Yep. And we actually have a comment that David ran a wonderful BFRO expedition a few years ago, very professional and formal. And welcome, Lori.
Hey, Lori.
Thanks, Lori. A little note with Lori. We occasionally we have our investment in Salt Fork. It's one of the few parks where you can go and the rangers aren't going to harass you about what you're doing late at night at 2:00 in the morning running the trails. The rangers will share information of what they've heard or what a camper have reported to them, and they watch out for you because they know that we're there for the best reason. To keep the park going, and we clean the park and protect it as much as we can. But Lori we used to do a Bigfoot hikes for the John Hickenbottom and the Naturalist at Salt Fork. And
I can't realize how amazing that is that the state park there has embraced it, and they're actually helpful to legitimate researchers.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally amazing. And I think it's a symbiotic. A lot of the groups are very respectful and I'm gonna say supportive of the park with all the camp outs and spending the money at doing the camping at the lots and eating at the restaurants and stuff. But we had a Bigfoot hike that Jesse and Alan started, and we just kind of group of us kept it going. Where the naturals, he said, I go take a group down and say we're going to look at owls. I might have 5-10 10 people show up. He says, I would announce that we're doing a Bigfoot hike with actual researchers in the park. And I'm not exaggerating the numbers. We've had over 300 people show up. We had to break them up into 100 lots. And we'd have maybe 8 to 10 researchers there helping out. And we just basically take them down a trail. We'd introduce them to some of our equipment, some of the philosophies, our best understanding. There's no experts in Bigfoot, but I think we just shared our experiences and our knowledge that we've been out in the field. We let the kids howl and do tree knocks. And then we get down to the one end, and Walter Tippy, a friend of ours, had a sighting down at the end of this one trail, and we would tell the story. And by then it would get nice and dark, and then we'd start heading back. And what's really funny is that 1 out of every maybe 5 hikes that we would do, something would happen. There would be a howl back or a tree knock back. And the dad would come over and say, "Hey, that's pretty good. You got someone down in the woods there?" And I'm like, "No."
Nope.
Because then it becomes, we would like to go research that or find out what's going on, but we're also responsible trying to get these people back out of the woods and back to their cars. And we're like, okay, let's go ahead and start walking a little faster now. And it got to a point where John, at first, the naturalist, was not a big fan of Bigfoot. It was like, I'm appreciative of your guys' help because it helps the park. But now, after a few times and few experiences of his own, now he's been very supportive and very knowledgable naturalist, and he's done his homework.
We have yet another comment. This is, from Brian Dywert, and welcome Brian to the show. Said, confirmed David's BFR expedition a few years ago was magnificent, well organized yet flexible at the same time. So hey,
we put a lot of work into that, and I probably defend it. Even though I'm not in the BFRO now, I do defend the expeditions, and there's a lot of great researchers that are in there in that organization. It just wasn't for me at the time. At time now, but the expeditions, at least I hold to. I was responsible. There was money being paid, and I wasn't there to have them a show, but I was there to educate and entertain. And I wanted to make sure their minutes, their time that they gave me, that it was very valuable, that I was able to return a good memory, and they came away with some skills.
One of the expeditions I run is the puppet show. No, I'm wrong. Every expedition's got to have a puppet show, marionette. No, just, I got to ask, with you being a physical therapist, how does that, your knowledge of anatomy, especially looking at a Sasquatch track, does that give you any more insight on how they walk, or,
Well, I think that I know human anatomy really well, and human gait. So when I go out in the field and I have friends who send me pictures or we locate footprints, I have the ability to clarify if I really think it's a human footprint. Then if it's in a gray area, then we start looking at stride length and weight and the width of the heel. Is there any mid-tarsal break? Is there any toes that are flailing out? And everybody's going to go, well, usually only find one. Well, I really think people don't take the time and investigate where the other footprints possibly are. I usually put a stick down beside the one footprint. When Brian was on, he was one of the guys that was out with us at Salt Fork, and then it was raining when we was looking at a track, and you take the tape measures out. I'm looking for, I take it out about 6 to 7 feet from the footprint that I found, and I kind of do an arc, and I say, where would be the next step at 6 foot? And then even though I don't find something, I put a stick there in the ground, and I go 6 or 7 feet away from there, trying to look at an angle or the general vicinity that it was going, and go for another, go for 12 feet out and look around for another footprint. I have found probably 3 tracks where I've been able to find multiple footprints just because I took the time of investigating the stride length of being around six foot.
Yeah. And that's real. That's really funny because I have one track line I found actually was going uphill at quite a steep angle, and it made 6 feet in 3 steps going up a hill, and at probably like a 25-degree grade or greater, maybe 25 to 30, and it right up.
Yeah.
Now, would you
is the way to go too, dude.
Yeah.
I like that, because once you determine the approximate stride and you can't really spot the next track, you just lay your stick down and start looking in the arc. You're going to find it.
Yeah, that's why I like my Keeson rod. That's why I like my Keeson rod. You take that Keeson rod, put it out to the distance, and start looking.
That's the thing. See, a Keeson, a nice, I don't know, cedar walking stick is a poor man's Keeson rod.
Actually, a Keeson rod is a poor man's.
I got a walking stick that I use now, and it's not because I'm old. It's just because it has so many uses.
I'd probably use it because I'm old. No, I'm just but I'm probably going to have to loan mine out to Ron Bowles when we get out to Kentucky. Oh, is he on? Oh, he
will be there. I'm signed up for that expedition, so I'll see you then.
Good deal.
Excellent. You're coming down to Kentucky with Charlie Raymond?
Yeah, I've actually been on like 4 of Charlie's expeditions, and he runs a phenomenal job. When I'm looking at what I did for mine as a host, I definitely was looking at some of the things that he does and adding to it. But I love Kentucky. Kentucky has been a great research state. I've been to 2 places, which I cannot tell you why, because I signed a non-disclosure agreement. But the 2 places were phenomenal, and I treasured those.
Hold on. Tack said that's why I started carrying cloth tape. I thought that you fall down and rip your pants.
No. Cloth tape, like
okay. Here we go. Tom Steenberg has a great question. Are footprints in Ohio the same as reported in like British Columbia and the Pacific Northwest of the U.S., or have you come across differences?
I think there's variety as you would look at in human feet. If you went to a basketball game and kind of in a weird way ask everyone to take off their shoes and show their feet, you would come down with a plethora of all kinds of sizes and widths and abnormalities. The other part, as a physical therapist, we're dealing with gout and Charcot's foot and neuropathy and collapsed arches. So there's all kinds of abnormalities even in the human foot. So basically what I'm looking at is looking for is a wide heel, 4 feet, 4 inches or greater, 5 to 6 at the metatarsals, and trying to check and see if there's a metatarsal break, and sometimes there isn't. And then look for toes. And is the toes flailed out, or are they condensed? How did the heel hit? I'm looking at a normal human being is strikes with the heel and goes over on a lateral side and then pushes off with his great toe. What did that foot look like when it hit? Cliff always says that the footprint is not the shape of the foot, but it's the damage that the foot or the creature did to the ground. And I wholly enjoy that as a understanding of the footprint.
Yeah. Now I have a real good question too, and it's one of my things I talk about a lot is that every once in a while there's this trackway that I'm highly dubious of, because every step is like one in front of the other, and I find that kind of like a weird type of walking pattern. When we walk, I would think that we would have a left-right delineation. What says you? I mean.
The one track, the best one that I had, if I had to draw a line, I think it was right on the line. With taking my first print that I found, and going out and finding 2 other prints out in the cadence. And if I had a yarn, a string, it would have walked on the yarn. I mean, it was a tightrope act.
It's kind of weird. Maybe it's because of the length of their gait, perhaps. But
I've only found one really good. Oh,
they're less. They're because they're so big. They're less. The subject has to get through the woods, so they become smaller at the bottom, so that they're able to track, and their upper body just bounces everything else off or pushes it to the side. I don't know.
Yeah.
I found one good trackway in Kentucky that I was able to follow until I lost it. And they weren't in line. That's the only thing. The only difference, and I've seen so many people and so many trackways, photos of them that show in line, but that's not what I've seen in Kentucky. And it might have just been that creature. I don't know. But it's interesting.
Yeah. Tom asked, 5 toes normally are like the American 3 toes found in Ohio?
Well, we actually did the Coshocton Bigfoot group. Jay is one of our founders, and he's out all the time. And he sent me a picture of a 3-toed, and I had just by coincidence read something from Don Keating's one of his books that he had casted a 3-toed print, and I was like, oh my gosh! So we went up there, and I'm trying to teach these guys to use your phone for compassing and GPS and take a picture so you can get back to the same spot. And he said, well, I know where it's at. Well, it rained, and when we got up there, it didn't look the same, so he couldn't find the footprint, and I was very disappointed. So, but yes, probably within the last year, I had a picture of he had a picture of the 3-toed print, and it got me so excited. But there has been 3-toed prints in Coshocton.
Wow.
Now,
cool.
Now, in looking at those, is it possible that it's lost toes, amputated toes, or?
Well, I think gangrene or hunter's traps. If it's walking down the streams, and everybody's like follow the water. So if you're a Bigfoot and you're walking down a stream and you're kind of doing your thing, and you got a trapper line down through there, it's got a bunch of coney bears or traps in there for muskrat and whatnot. There might be a possibility of something injuring it, and maybe not that necessarily the trap itself causing it, but if it got infected and then just self-amputated.
Now, can you see a snapping turtle taking a toe of us?
Ooh. I had a neighbor that used to do noodling of the turtles. He used to go down in the banks and reach in and pull out the turtles and throw them on the shore. And 2 times he had to get his thumb reattached to his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I remember in this area of Texas, eastern Texas, where there was a lot of alleged Sasquatch activity. We had come across an area that had 10 or 15 emptied out turtle shells. And we found that very interesting. They were just the shells, like the whole thing had just been yanked out and eaten or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, is that somebody just making turtle soup, or I don't know, but it was really weird that we had all this plethora of activity and going on. And let's go here. Hello, Edward. Good to see you, brother. And yeah, a lot of Native American tribes are documented as walking in a straight line style. Interesting. Interesting.
I would like to see it.
Yeah. Well, they do that so they can hide their number.
Right.
So who knows? Think about it. You got a couple walking in line right behind another. They're just putting the same trail. Don't know. And I'm pretty sure chimpanzees do that too. They walk in single file as not to, let anybody know. And if you ever watch them, there's this amazing video that was out a few years ago about showing how intelligent they are. That there's one chimp that comes out and he'll kind of look at the next one in line. And when he gives them the look or whatever, they all start walking across the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that one will not leave until the last one goes. Very interesting stuff. But, just you can see the intelligence of them crossing the road. And elephants are super intelligent. They do the same thing. In fact, it was kind of funny. You'd see the elephant actually looking both ways down the road, see if the road was clear. So, You know, I
Well,
say this.
animals are pretty cool. You know, cattle will follow a single path through a pasture, and it makes like the neatest little walking trail about 12 inches wide. There will be no grass there, but on each side of the cow path, it's grass.
Yeah.
And it's something that they do naturally. I guess they preserve their pasture. I don't know, but it's interesting.
So there was just a couple weeks ago, I think I talked to you guys before the show. There was two guys that I had talked to. They had shared an encounter in Licking County. It was really interesting. The two guys were old hunters, very outdoorsmen, and the area that they saw the crossing was interesting because it's near the Dawes Arboretum, which is a nature preserve where I think it was like after the Civil War, the Dawes gentleman was giving some land to try out to figure out what kind of foliage trees would be able to be planted and full and grow quickly to replenish the effects from the Civil War and all the battles. And so when I went and took my friend Jay and Shane there, we met the guys, and they reported that it was after 4th of July. One of the gentlemen was not feeling good, so he went to the hospital, and they wouldn't let him drive home. So the other buddy came and picked him up, and they were coming back home. And going across this cornfield road, coming back, the headlights at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the headlights hit a large figure that was standing in the middle of the road, and they slowed down, and it took a step up into the cornfield, and they were excited and scared, and so they kind of backed up a little bit, had their headlights kind of follow it in the cornfield, and it went about 60 yards into the field, and just then kind of did a peekaboo, just kind of squatted down and looked at him, and squatted down and looked at him again, and after a while their nerve just kind of got the best of them. They finally took off, but they said they had white eyes. They had white shining eyes, and it was really interesting just because of this. When we got there, we actually went to the site, and the corn had been already harvested, and this happened in 2019. But I have a stick that PVC pipe that every foot I put black tape, and every 6 inches the 6 inches I put pink tape, and I use that when I have witnesses to kind of have them be able to maybe put in a size to it, and both of them kind of hit the right size or same size as about between 8.5 feet tall from where I had the pole at, from where they said their car was. And it was interesting, some of the things that, I don't tell them while I'm doing it, but they said they saw in the middle of the road, and I measured the road, and the road was 17 feet across, and they said it took one step to the edge and then one step up a small embankment and was in the cornfield. So that kind of made a little sense. They were really good about the details. I tried to shake them a little bit, gave them, they had given me some information about the details, the hair color and such, and try to change it on them, just see if they was going with the punches. And no, neither one of them was gonna change their story. The Dawes, like I said, is right by there. During the day, people go in there, and it's nature preserve, but at night it's closed to the public. And so there's lots of tree, shrubs, different orchards in that around that area, pond, water. So it was just kind of interesting. The other part that we talked about was after a day or two, they decided they were going to go run up and talk to their family member on up the road. And that family member said that she'd do one better. She had heard some howling and had lived in that area for all her life and never heard anything like this. She heard some howls coming from the Dawes. And so when I was up there, we were checking things out and getting her story. And I played some different Ohio Bigfoot sounds, like I had some Sierra sounds I played. Nah, that's not it. And Moneymaker's Ohio Howl, and nah, that's not it. Some friends of mine, Mike and Mike from the Ohio Night Stalkers, played some of their stuff. Nah, that's not it. But the guy who was with me for the BFRO expedition helped me host, Charlie Page. He had captured a howl that was very similar to the Ohio howl in 2015. And I played that for her, and her eyes got really big, and the hair actually on her arm stood up. And I'm watching. This is autonomic. This is not, she can't fake that. She's like, oh my God, I got goosebumps. She says, that's it. That's exactly what I heard. She says, that's scary. She says, where's that from? I said, well, it's from Ohio. And so she was just, it really shook her. She's like, I haven't heard anything like that. I'll never forget it. So it's really going to be a further foregoing investigation. We got some people in that area that do other research in that area. So we're going to try to get back with them and get some more details.
Interesting. I always had a hard time, and I don't discount the story, but I have a hard time with the Sierra Sounds because, a lot of that stuff nobody's ever heard again. And
I'm just trying to share, I guess, the information I had, because I had all the other thing I had. There's a I don't know, it's on the internet. There's like 16 different portraits of Bigfoot that people have put together. Yep. And I kind of had the guys look at them separately, and I said, give me your best two. And out of them, each of them chose one that was different, but they both chose one that was the same. And they said it kind of looked like this one or this one. And so, it was just kind of allowing to have more information about this report. And I wish I would have been able to separate them a little bit more and got more individual stories to see if they would have jived together. But it was kind of cold, and we were out there. Traffic was driving by. We got measuring tapes all the way down and poles sticking out. I think they thought we were surveyors or something. But it was a fun time. It was definitely a fun time.
Well, David, I was wondering, have you had a sighting yourself yet, or are you still waiting?
I guess I haven't had a Class A sighting. The closest I've been was there was Brent Sipley, I think, was doing a BFRO expedition down in Kentucky, and I went there. And because I was an investigator, we went down early to kind of get the idea of the trails and be able to have some bearing on when we was taking groups out. And we were talking, we just kind of hitting this trail, and we wasn't really thinking about anything. We were just, in the landscape, and we went around a bend, and ahead of me by about 75 feet, I saw big red eyes. And I have a Knox headlamp, which is really bright on top. I mean, it's like a little sun. So I can't say they can't add anything to the conspiracy or the argument of debate of whether it was glowing before or whatever. But I hit, and there was two eyeballs that were the size of ping pong balls, and it looked at me and then turned away. And I stopped, and I was like, I shine. And we started getting our spears out and everything. But by the time we got situated, it was gone. That definitely made me swallowing my own tongue with that. The other thing is in my research area, I had a I forget.
Ron's asking if he was at that expedition. I have some questions stacked up.
All right.
So the question number one is some TAC. Has Dave compared all of those sounds visually to look for commonality? I'm not the audio is, I know enough to be dangerous. I do have the Audacity. Audacity. Yeah, on my computer, and I have when I was doing the expedition, preparing for the expedition, Charlie Page was really our audio guy, and he's phenomenal. But we had LDRs in various spots of Woodbury trying to capture knocks and information, and it takes me all night to go through the week or so that we would get. Charlie would go through a whole week in one night. So I am just dangerous enough. I do
like the idea of putting it on a spectrograph and being able to seeing the wave and trying to differentiate what is known sound.
Yeah, now Ron's asking what year was that?
I'm going to say 2015 or 2016.
It was back in the day.
Back in the day. But right now, a friend of mine, Dave Webster, is really starting off on doing some really good stuff in Indiana. I want to give him a little tip of the hat because he's learning from the ground up, and it's really good that the other Bigfoot researchers like Charles Kimbrough and Charlie Page and Mahangahala and other guys that I have utmost respect for, they're helping him out, and so audio is not my strong suit, but I know enough to be dangerous.
And Lori did make a comment that Mark Mazel has captured similar sounds, very similar Sierra sounds over southeastern Ohio. So that's good to know. I mean, that makes me feel a little bit better that somebody actually has.
There's a story about that. It's actually in his book, Ron's book, and there's a section in that area that has the Ohio sound. And Mark Mazel got it on one of his expeditions, and he included it in the book, and it's on the CD. If you listen to listen to the CD for the Sierra sounds. And what was funny was Mark would always tell the story about how Ron called him out at one of the conferences and said, "Hey, the guy back there is the guy," and had some words before that because Ron thought he had copied or plagiarized or played it backwards or whatever, and actually had some not nice conversation with him. And maybe we got that on our expedition. So go pound sand, and I went out to Beachfoot with Todd's group, and Ron was out there, and I said, "Oh, by the way, I'm a friend of Mark Mazel's," and he kind of snickered and laughed. And he said, "Did he tell you that he told me to pound sand?" I said, "Yep." He told you to tell. He said, "Yep." He did. He says, "So yeah, if you read the book, it's a small paragraph, and it's also included in the CDs."
Gotcha. So apparently Fred Clark got some samurai chatter in Colorado apparently too. Question was, how many people normally go on the BFRO expeditions?
Well, I think you talk to first you kind of put in your hat of whether you're interested or not. We hadn't had a Ohio expedition for a long time, and I think I talked to Charlie, and we said we could try to do that because we wanted to bring Ohio back on the map of doing a decent expedition. I think we had like 16, 20 people maybe. And then I had a whole bunch of
Ron's piping and says it varies.
Yeah, and I had a whole bunch of help from. I mean, the word got out. Charlie called his BFRO buddies. I had some of my BFRO buddies. We had a good tangent from Ohio, and so we had like 2 to 3 investigators for every group that went out. It was really awesome. I was very appreciative.
It's amazing the camaraderie you get when you get a group of people together, no matter under what circumstance, the dynamic. I remember the camaraderie amongst several people that were occurred even through a failed Bigfoot expedition, and they were all mad at the expedition organizers because they had taken their money, and the camaraderie amongst them was wonderful, and still the love of doing Bigfoot research. And I think that's what kind of binds us all. I think when everybody's in a gaggle together, normally it goes fairly smoothly, no matter where you fall on the spectrum. Where it falls on the spectrum, it doesn't matter. You're all together trying to solve the mystery. And that's the and this we have had a lot of lines drawn down over the past several years between what they call the woo and the people that believe Bigfoot's an alien, and the cloakers, the portal jumpers, the stuff like that. And at the end of the day, if you legitimately believe that, then that's your belief. And I may not subscribe to one particular field of thought or any, or I may have some explanations for things, but at the end of the day, we're trying to solve the mystery.
Yeah.
And I haven't been one to say, okay, let's all sit in a circle and try to mind speak to a Bigfoot. But
well, I always tell people like this. I like to be open-minded and let people do their own thing. But well, I'll tell them is I'm flesh and blood in my research abilities. As a physical therapist, I am going to be contributing to the group because I can cast footprints. I've done a footprint in the rain, snow, a mud puddle. I've actually had some fun doing that expanding foam, trying to mess with that to learn a little bit about that. It's been fun. There's a technique, and there's a certain, you don't go with the cheap stuff, you go with the more expensive stuff, and it comes out decent. It's easier to carry if you do a good print, and it's lighter. I mean, you don't have to carry hydrocal in a bunch of water and hydrocal or your print back out. Once it's solid, it's solid. You just throw it in the backpack and go. But I got friends who do the paranormal stuff, and it's nice that when they have a footprint, they call me for advice, and I can't say enough about that they respect me enough that they feel comfortable with saying, hey, we was out and we found these footprints, and I try to educate them about measurements, putting a dollar bill beside it for reference, give me some pictures of the heel, tell me what's going on. So I'm trying to educate them from my angle, from my strengths.
Yeah. Okay, so Tack said, Steve gets rocks thrown at me when we go out. Yep.
Yeah.
That night,
the rock throne I had, and it was near my house, and it was a choke point for where a lot of turkeys do some scratching. And I thought it was a bird or a squirrel at one point, and it was about the size of a potato. And when it hit, I still was thinking that it was going to roll away and run, and it didn't. It was just a rock, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm not in a good place right now. No. Better go."
Terry, I agree. You can't prove mind speak. And Ron says that's exactly what we're going to do in Kentucky, Steve. You bring the crystals and I'll make the tinfoil hats. All right, we're on. We shall sit at the edge of the forest and chant.
Well, David, I had a question. I was looking at a map of a Salt Fork, and I brought it back up a few minutes ago to re-reference it. But the Salt Fork Lake makes like a big C through the whole park. Do you think these creatures are water friendly, or do you think they tend to, as far as when it comes to crossing water, do you think they tend to cross that lake, or do you think they go around?
Up by Hozak's Cave, there was an old report of one crossing a small area of the lake there. And I got to a point where I'm not scared anymore of just talking or sharing with people that I look for Bigfoot. I think there's a time and a place, definitely, but I don't shy away from it. And someone who was out there does a lot of boating on pontoons. They said there was one creek area that they never go up into because they've always had like wild howls and stomping up in that area. And I forget what they call it. Like it was like Crazy Cove or Kooky Cove or something like that. They just said, we don't go up there. We don't throw our anchor up in there at all. And even the high school sons was like a little antsy about not going that way.
Kooky Cove, that's the nickname for Soha or Soho. The Pacific Northwest.
I think they're definitely connected to the water.
So let me make a quick. There are some questions in the YouTube portion of the chat, and David is no longer part of the BFRO, so he doesn't run expeditions for them. I think that if we have Ron on, maybe those questions should be addressed to somebody that's actively and more involved with running expeditions. Because there's been some questions like, and what they're trying to allude to is the big money making scheme. And I'll just say it is what it is. What they're saying is they were like, well, where does all this money go? And
I can tell you that I kept receipts of all the travel meals. I rented out the speakers that were there. I paid for their camping areas. I took the money and support a local I want to say a food cart and brought food for these guys to eat. Showed some video, made sure that there was lots of activities and you could participate if you wanted to or not. So I know I was sweating. My friends knew that I was nervous as heck to get this expedition over with, because I felt it was a big responsibility of putting on a learning, fun, and hopefully we get some kind of action. And I took it very much to heart. So I don't know how other people,
you're feeding people.
Yeah.
You're taking care of speaker costs.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much like a speaking engagement with a little fun in the field.
Yeah. I think the only thing I got to keep out of the whole deal, I got me a brand new pair of muck boots.
Yeah.
that was after I paid off everything. I had a nice $100 pair of muck boots that I normally wouldn't have spent the money for.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You're not going to get rich putting on expeditions. No.
Unless your name is Todd Standing, where you're charging $3,000 for an expedition, or $1,500. I actually have this firefighter that's out in Arizona, retired firefighter, who was fire captain, who kind of got all excited about this, and Standing charged him $3,000 to go out there, and it wasn't really a well-run thing, according to him, and very interesting story. We will have him on a future date on the show, but now is not the time for that. So a couple other things. Terry says, I love going on Ron's expeditions. And Ken says, I've done plenty of town halls with Matt Moneymaker in the Colorado Dennis Fall, and it is expensive. So, stuff costs money. And it is what it is. You got to pay your people to, you got to take care of their gas costs and all the other stuff. And, if you have speakers if they're coming in, you got to take care of them that way. So, Tack likes to say, are there any special minerals in Salt Fork that might draw animals or Bigfoot into it, like a salt lick or digestive clay? Or
I don't know about, I wouldn't say that there might be a possibility of that at Salt Fork, but definitely in Woodbury, we find different opportunities like that, because again, it was an old mining company, mining shaft. So there's lots of different coloration sometimes for the water. I would think that the Woodbury and some of the clays that we have, that would be something that they would be interested in.
Gotcha.
The other part, I know maybe not the whole diet, but Coshocton County is #1 in deer harvesting every year. So I forget how many, I think it was over 6,000 deer harvested through bow, shotgun, and muzzleloader season. And I can tell you right now, I can probably catch 5 or 6 deer at my Salt Lick tonight. You don't that many deer in one county every year, and it doesn't even phase it.
Well, if I had a salt lick at my house, by tomorrow at this time, it's probably going to be covered in another half a foot of snow at least. So, Chris, feel yourself thankful. I know you in Ohio suffer my pains as well. We're looking at getting a ton of snow starting tomorrow afternoon, or starting tomorrow late afternoon into Tuesday, and then we get smacked around again Thursday into Friday. And the very interesting thing is my off days this week are Wednesday, Thursday.
That's the thing. Over the next couple of days, we're supposed to have a bunch of snow here. But the bad thing is, if we wake up in the morning and there's a foot of snow on, by that afternoon it'll be gone. When you guys get it, it's there for forever. Till June.
Actually, Ken has a question for Chris. Have you heard of any sightings around the Buckhorn State Park or the Daniel Boone State Forest?
Ken, that's a long ways away from here. But we did have a former member now, Scott, that went there in the Daniel Boone National Forest checking out some stories and of some sightings. And he did find a trackway, and he attempted to cast it, but the best track he could find to cast was on the like a 45-degree slope hillside. And so when he cast it, it broke out of the back of the heel and run down. So he said he ended up with a cast looked like a snake. So it didn't work out too well, but he did find some tracks there. And unfortunately, that's like about 2 hours and 45 minutes away from me. So it's not really something I could drive to every day to check out, and research. But good question.
Hey, OT's in the house too, and he says, I don't want to hear about snow or anything. It's negative 33 in the past 2 days. Eek.
Oh, wow.
So, Steve, I think the screen there is flashing. I just want to make sure I have an opportunity to
absolutely
talk about
let's talk about
the conference.
So we're waiting. We've gone to dark. Everybody still there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
All right. I don't know what happened there, but we had a failure of something.
Uh-oh.
There we are.
There you go. Thank you. So from earlier with the idea of having a conference, what I found was the Ohio Bigfoot Conference is just down the road at Salt Fork, and it has done it for a long time. And over and over again, it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I read some of Don's old stuff and actually went to one of Don's meetings and as an adult. And his conferences were a little bit different. And we're just sitting around, and people were coming in, and it was free at first, and then he started charging a little bit. I wanted to have something here in Coshocton. So with Don kind of in the ropes, with Shane, I'm talk with him monthly with Project Zoo Book. Amy Boo has that Project Zoo Book where we have researchers and anthropologists, primatologists, marine biologists, a whole bunch of people getting together and talking Bigfoot, which is really, really amazing. And I kind of asked Shane, I said, hey, if I was interested in putting on a conference, would you be interested in coming? Because I really think his the Nest site and what they're doing at the Olympic Project is amazing. And he just said, sure, Dave, yes, please. Because we had met at Beachfoot, and we had really struck a good friendship. And I was just amazed that he was having the opportunity to come out. And then, I looked around and said, okay, well, I got these two guys that are really strong. And I wanted the theme to be researchers that actually go out in the field, get their butts wet and their shoes muddy, and they compile data and put it together and come up with an idea or a summation of why is Bigfoot there, or why are we seeing these behaviors? And then they share it. They share the information. I think that's one of the biggest things that some researchers don't do, is they keep everything to themselves. And we need to share more of our knowledge that we gain by experience. And so George is someone that I respect from Pennsylvania. He's done an amazing job of compiling all the information in Pennsylvania. And then Kane, I met him a couple places, and he's kind of like a Renaissance man. He's down in Hocking Hills, and he does amazing Bigfoot research, goes out in the field for an extended time. And I'm very, very happy and proud to have these guys as my speaker lineup. If I guess people, it's going to be coming up here. So a couple weeks after OBC. So if you haven't got your fill, or you want to try something different, you just check us out on the Facebook page of the Sasquatch Triangle Conference, and it'll lead you to the site to buy tickets.
Excellent.
The conference is going to be on a Sunday. I'm trying something different. What I found with other conferences, it was always on Saturday, and Sunday everybody just got up early, and no one said goodbye, and no one said see you later, and everybody took off at different places. So I want that to kind of be at the end of the conference. And so Saturday is for people to get together around campfires. We're going to be Lake Park is where it's at Pavilion. that has a campground nearby, and we're going to be camping there. And with the COVID restrictions right now, they're allowing only so many people per lot. We're trying to find with Ohio, our current COVID restrictions by the governor. We're limited to amount of people who can get into Lake Park. Normally they can hold up to 500 people, and right now we only have up to 100. We're going to be social distancing and checking temperatures, making sure people have a safe trip and enjoy the event, and then hopefully get home and be safe going home. With me being a physical therapist, I currently am treating patients with COVID or just coming out of the hospital and coming out of quarantine. So this is very, very, very important to me, and I'll be following the guidelines by the state to make sure it's going to be a safe event.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be fun. Did you say what the cost of the event was going to be? I kind of missed
$30.
Okay.
That's just getting you to the inside the event. There's going to be some vendors there, but because of the COVID and the restriction of how many people we have in the building, we have limited amount of vendors. It's not going to be vendor heavy, but there's going to be souvenirs for everybody. We're looking at a event Saturday night where one of the local restaurants that I'm friends with the owner, he has an outside patio, and he's allowed us to have at least half the patio. And we're going to try and meet at a certain time and just eat. And hopefully the speakers will be available there if people want to stop by and get pictures or talk to them about their encounters. Hopefully we'll have a good time there.
Excellent. Now, is this going to be something you're going to do every year, or are you just running it for the test now?
Right now I set a goal of 60 tickets, and I already have 80 tickets sold, and I really haven't done anything local. I got friends who are going to help me get on the radio, which I've done before for community theater and for other events. And I got a friend that wants to do a newspaper article, so I'm still reserving some tickets for our local people in Coshocton. But I've already met my goal, and I think it was going to be, as long as we can pull it through with the same high expectations that I did with my expedition, I hope this is going to be a very successful event. Going with will I do it again? I definitely will, but I like to research. I like to get out in the field, and I don't want to become a conference organizer. Yeah. I want to be a guy who occasionally organizes a conference, and that way I don't burn friends out. I don't burn
yourself out.
Yeah, and burn myself out. I want to get out in the field and research. I want to grab that footprint or that how, And
I think that's a big reason why Eric Altman does the Pennsylvania Bigfoot camping adventure every couple of years, rather than every single year, because you go nuts. So
I want to do it again, and I think the theme is what I'm going to be looking at. So. Each year, I'm going to try to delve into a common theme of what the speakers can add to it.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Cool beans. And you have a URL of the Facebook group?
The Facebook group, the Sasquatch Triangle Conference is for the conference. The group that I'm in right now is the Coshocton County Bigfoot. They have a Facebook group. I'm usually the guy that's the science guy that's kind of putting the facts and any good reports that we get on there just to write them up. Again, from some of the experience that I had from the BFRO, compiling the information and putting it in a little storyline that differentiates, what the evidence showed. I try to put that in there. But I really enjoy just getting out with different groups like Sosby, Doug Waller's group. They're kind of fun to hang out with. But I like the individual researchers and people like Ed up at the Buckeye Bigfoot research. The correlation where he called me up on an investigation that he had, and it was a privilege for me to go up there and help him. And I felt like he wanted somebody he could trust and get into the field with him. So when people share knowledge and share resources, I think it's going to be good for Bigfoot.
Yep. And hey, guess who showed up to the party? And Dave. Hey, Dave. we got to do a shout out to our regulars who have been here since almost day one. And before we go, Robin Rose, our good friend, and Robin, I've known God for, I want to say at least 15, 16 years. So it's been a while. You want to write one last note on hoaxing. The hoax is the very absence of the truth. Also, hoaxes regularly substitute claims for reality. For imagination, facts are formed, acting if artifice is the antithesis of the subject. This case is a mere tooth. but good point. But anyway, we're getting close to the end. So we just want to make sure we got that information out. And obviously you've kind of laid out what you're doing. Anything hot you're following up on, or just
I think right now, I think everybody should challenge themselves as a researcher to develop new skills. I know my friend David Webster's, jumped both feet into audio, and I kind of accepted that as a challenge. Ken Gerhard on Facebook posted about analysis of hair, and so I kind of took him up on it. I sent him a private message, and he sent me some documents and some references to hair. I won't say banks that you can research from universities, and I'm going to get a microscope out. And I think the group that I belong with, I said, let's start learning how to analyze hair. Not that we have to be experts about it, but just like if someone gets a book and can go out in the field and identify trees from their leaves and their buds and their seeds and their bark, if we can start increasing our knowledge in what a hair from a dog, a canine, a human looks like, then we can start looking at if we do get anything, and also how to collect the evidence. Don't lick the envelope, and once you put the hair in there, or signing off on the chain of command of control. So if I collect something, I'm going to sign it, and then if I give it to somebody, I'm going to have that person.
Yep.
So and then on the back of it, I had start putting things like, where did you find it, where, what time, and stuff like that. And we're going to start trying to do our own bank and get known samples of horses and dogs and animals, and so we can start learning about that. So that's one of my goals for next year, is to get some basic knowledge of hair and analysts. And
what I love is, and you think about this, 20 years ago, good God, it's been over 22, 23, about 23 years ago I started this. Back then, you didn't have microscopes that you can plug into the computer. So now you can just put them the slide under there, and you can look, and then you can take a picture, and that picture is on the computer. I mean, what that does is, hey, you know what? Come here, pooch, and pull a hair on a pooch, put it under there, save that as a sample. You think about it, but then you can build your own bank of hairs. There's a dog hair, there's a cat hair. The girlfriend's not looking. Pull a hair out of her head. Okay, there's a human hair. Because you know what, David, I don't have hair to pull out of my own head. So
we're going to be doing lots of roadkill and doing some roadkill collection. I think that's a funny part.
Smart. That's a smart idea.
What a weirdo. He's running over to that dead deer on the side of the road. What is he doing?
Lunch.
Yeah. And Dave just said something or Ken just said something that that made me chuckle. I put flour all over my truck. There's a joke there, but I'm not going to say it in the show. But anyway, we're wrapping up here. So David, after we end, stay on for a minute.
Yep.
I want to wrap real quickly after the show. But first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming on tonight. It's been awesome conversation. Learned a few things, which is always, you know, and of course our audience has some of the greatest questions out there.
Very good, very good questions.
You know, and we'll give Ron Bowles a pass.
Looking forward to seeing Ron again down in Kentucky.
Yes. So, and I look forward to seeing you in Kentucky, as I do Ron. And, you know, unfortunately I heard, you know, Suzanne Ferenchek was thinking of going, but looks like she's going to have to pass on that, which is too bad. I was looking forward to meeting her too. But anywho, Chris, you want to do your thing?
Well, I just want to thank David again for coming on. Dave, you've been a great guest. It's been an honor having you. I want to thank our listeners. Man, I love you guys. Thank you so much. And if you're a first-time listener on YouTube, please remember to hit the like, subscribe, share, punch all those buttons for us because it helps us with the with the algorithm. Get a little help from the dogs.
The little fellas agreeing.
But again, thanks everybody.
And thank you, Tom, and thank you everybody for being here tonight. Thank you, David. Of course, as always, we will be here next Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. For another rousing edition of Squatch-D TV. And on behalf of us here, we want to wish everybody a happy, safe, and blessed week. You know, keep healthy, folks. God bless. Keep on squatching. We'll catch you all here next week.
Folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless. And keep on squatching.